Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. As always, thank you so much for being here. It's always great to be back. And so, wow, where do we even begin today? So much to talk about, so much to cover. And as always, in all these live sessions, I am here to answer any and all questions. This is really, as a default, a Q&A session. A couple weeks ago, somebody responded and in a YouTube comment and said, "Hey, how can you talk about this stuff for an hour?" And the reality is that we're usually talking about the subject area of the live session for a limited amount of time. It's just an opportunity for when we have downtime as a subject to talk about. And is tech hiring going back up is a really interesting conversation because in reality, the amount of jobs that are open is going up. And so that is really, really good news for anybody who's interested in getting into a tech company, especially big tech. So, okay, where should we dive in? Let's talk a little bit about yesterday's video. I always, whenever I do a Monday video, I always like to bring it up and just talk about it for a second. So often I get questions about um, like, Jeff, can you create practice interview questions for me? And the reality is whether you're going to use ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever you're going to use for your Gen AI tool, um, they can create great questions for you. So I created that video so you have a very simplistic, it's a very short video on how to create questions for yourself so you never run out of questions. And the depth and the way you can play around with creating questions with Gen AI is it's really good. And if you're going into any interview and thinking about interviewing at any company, typically and historically, about at least 50% of the questions based. So what that means is it's a great opportunity for you to use that tool to get in some good practice. Obviously, I've noted here we're officially live app.practiceinterviews.com. That's our AI tool, and that's how we do it. So you either enter your own job description or you use a default job description. We're generating those questions based on the JD through ChatGPT on the back end. So same sort of process. All right, let me highlight my services really quickly, and then we'll dive in. Okay, so the app is live. It went live last Monday. We had a little bit of a hiccup with the payment piece, and obviously we're going to evolve it and continue to adapt and adjust. And we already have a 3-month roadmap, but of course that roadmap will change based on users. We've gotten a lot of excitement about the lifetime access, which was just a little surprising to me. You just never know. And so we're going to keep that lifetime access opportunity to buy the tool and have access for lifetime. I don't know how long we're going to keep that up, but that has definitely been the most popular package, which again, to me, candidly was just surprising. I thought the monthly package would be the most popular. But we're getting some good feedback, tons of opportunities to give us feedback. Please give us feedback. We want to make sure that tool is as good for you, the audience, the community as possible. Still doing one-on-one interview and one-on-one negotiation coaching, and I've added the strategy sessions. So I'm also doing one-on-one strategy sessions. That's resume, LinkedIn, etc. Wanted to offer a discount on the interview mastery course today. $200 off on the interview mastery course if you use the coupon code M2024. Again, that's M2024. That's available just till 11:59 Pacific time today. If you like what I'm doing, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, and then new original content every Monday. All right, let's have some fun. In our downtime, we'll talk about what's going on with tech hiring and is it actually coming back up? And this is a Q&A session, so I'm happy to answer any and all questions. Say hello, give me feedback, whatever you think. Thanks. Hey Liz, thanks. It always feels good to go live. So this is session 149. So again, I'm really looking forward, and I think I want to do something special when we hit live session 156, because that would be 3 full years of going live every week. I don't know if that's a weird thing in my head, but I'm going to do some sort of special offer, so that will come out in, depending on how the schedule works, probably late April. And from Sarasota, awesome. Have you heard of any updates regarding TAM roles in Toronto? Okay, so I think I have a little bit of a pulse on this, and I really want to clarify by little pulse, but here's what I've seen. And this has been really interesting, in my opinion. Uh, to date, over the last probably three to 6 months, but definitely in 2024, my number one client has been customer engineers. And so, okay, so customer engineers are similar to TAMs, they're technical in a client facing role. What I have not seen any of in the last 6 months is I haven't gotten a single TAM client, but in addition, I haven't gotten a single sales engineer client. And I haven't really checked in on the pulse of this, but what that tells me is that they've kind of grouped TAMs and sales engineers into customer engineers from what I'm seeing on my end. Again, I haven't done the research. I can't tell you whether those roles are out there or not. I should be doing that research, but the customer engineers are coming in like crazy. So I think that they're pivoting in that direction. So it may be time to consider going after a customer engineer role. Um, they're higher paying roles than TAMs. TAMs had historically not been as high paying. The customer engineer is going to be a little bit more technical than a TAM, but they're pretty close. Are sales roles going up? So I think all roles are going up. So I got a pulse on Google's overall number of openings. And this was late last week, and it was well over 1,800 openings globally. That's a lot. They were down to about 1,000 for a while. At the peak, they were above 4,000. So to be back towards almost half of where they were at their peak is pretty good. I didn't expect it to come up that much. So that's good news. Again, that's on the Google front. But if you see all the stock numbers on all these big tech companies, they are hiring. And obviously, there's a double down for any Gen AI role. And if you happen to land in front of one of those Gen AI roles, especially in the negotiation stage, it's a little bit of an escalator. There's an uptick there. So if they're going to hire you for anything that has or is backed by AI, make sure you're negotiating appropriately. Hi. Any thoughts on someone that has traditionally held management/leadership roles becoming an IC at Google? I interviewed for a leadership role, but HM made an offer to someone else. It's extremely, extremely common for people coming in and having even large teams, like greater teams of 100 plus to move into IC roles, whether it's Google or another big tech company. Like sometimes that's the piece that gets you in the door. And that really, what I always like to talk about with this specific item is, what are you passionate about? What do you care about? Because if people leadership is really important to you, and that's where you get all your passion, your energy, your excitement, then you should continue to look at roles where you're going to have that leadership component. Now, if it's not as important to you, or you find the stress of human beings to be stressful, be a little overwhelming, then it's an opportunity again to step into an IC role. Sometimes what's hard to kind of explain, and again, whether it's Google or another big tech company, it's hard to explain to people coming outside of big tech that they are used to down leveling you a couple levels from where you've been at other companies. And it's very common for people coming in with big leadership roles to take on IC roles so that you can get back to that leadership position because you have experience in that type of role. I hope that helps. Okay, Dean, in Vietnam, things get hard when I apply for a front end developer. So sad. I'm unemployed for like 6 months now. Okay, so it depends on where you're trying to apply for roles. If you're trying to apply for roles outside of your local market, that can always be challenging, right? And country to country, moving from one country to another, there's ease in moving from some countries. It's harder to get into other countries. So it's just something you want to consider. 6 months, while I really want to empathize and say, hey, that is challenging. 6 months is not uncommon in this market. While we're seeing an uptick in overall hiring, in general, it's still a tight and competitive market. And that's not going to change. And I think when we look at these tech companies, it's always going to remain competitive, but I think it's just getting more and more competitive as time goes on. So just stay positive, keep working at it. Every interview you get, every time you move forward, it's just an opportunity to get the job. And we kind of we look at these missed opportunities sometimes as we didn't get it, but just always think of it as you're getting one step closer to landing the job. I know it's very easy for me to say that, but 6 months is actually not that long in today's economic landscape. Now we all got to make money, we got to pay the bills, take care of our families, etc. So just keep at it. That's all I can say. Oh, you mean going live with the app? I thought that was I thought it was interesting, Liz, that you were telling me congrats for going live. Um yes, it was, again, I think anybody here knows anytime you build something, it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of just people don't see it. And I think it's just an important item to note. And it's something that you'll see on content everywhere. It's like people just don't see what's happening behind the scenes. So, me sitting here every Saturday and Sunday in my office and working and trying to get it out, I'm extremely fortunate to be in this position, but it is and was a ton of work to get it up. And a lot of the reason why I think the app is where it's at is because of you, the community. The users gave us a ton of feedback, and that is not going to stop. And I think it's really important, just as you use products, how much are they touching base with you? How much do they care about your user feedback? It's really, really important because throwing a $20 Amazon gift card at you for user feedback, it's just not enough. We got to make sure that we're driving and giving true value for feedback and that it's just consistently coming. And if people are giving you feedback, it means they want to help you. They want it to improve. So I'm excited. We'll see how it goes, but lots of opportunities. And I've been really fortunate on this launch. Things are off to a good start, and that's a good thing. Thanks, Liz. Okay. Now that I'm in Team Match and seeing fewer leadership opportunities on Google's careers page, I'm exploring IC roles. Any advice on how to navigate that shift in focus to adjacent roles? Well, it's okay to say in the process, if anybody asks you, well, whoa, I've seen you've been in a leadership role for a long time, you could simply say, I have been. And I do get energy and I am excited about leadership and I've enjoyed my leadership opportunity. I'm also excited about getting back and getting into the weeds and doing the day to day work. And if a leadership opportunity comes down the road, great. But I really want to focus in on doing the work that I know do and how I can contribute and perform for the organization. However, you want to say that, but you just take a really positive pitch and tone when you're asked questions about why you would transition, because it is really, really common. So I hope that helps. But if you need more information, please let me know. Okay. Coming back from last week, you got an updated offer. The numbers went from 130 to 135. RSU's 150 to 190. They said that's their best and final L4 solutions architect, only a 10% increase. I think, what was remind me, Max, Steve, the location. Remind me of the location. That will be helpful. How is the current job market? Well, the current job market's interesting, right? I think sometimes, again, when we look at the US, and I know this is a global audience, it's not a US based audience, but when we look at this, we kind of say, okay, well, all the job reports are good. Everything says the economy is good. I mean, I think it's a little thinner than people think. Ever since COVID, things changed. The amount of people who decided to get out of the job market or only work part-time and work part-time in their own business, that has skewed the numbers a little bit. I still think the economy is surprisingly stronger than expected. I still have some concerns about the impact of AI, just where we're at from a debt perspective. And that's not just in the US, but that's everywhere, right? That's why we see Bitcoin and Ethereum and these cryptocurrencies skyrocketing, because there are some concerns about fiat currencies. And that's really digressing. But I think that the current job market's pretty good. I still think it's incredibly competitive, but a good opportunity to get after it. And then, of course, as always, I'm going to default to the same mindset, which is we really need to make sure that we're not just applying to roles. I really want you to focus in on your networking efforts, really start to build your connections. And I think those are a couple of good ways to get into organizations, because I think the applications, especially with like easy apply and all these things, these companies are getting inundated with more applications than ever. So it's an opportunity to stand out. And we can talk more about that during this live session. Okay, I think that's the same question. Absolutely, Dean. Deep breaths, right? And just keep at it. They only gave you 1 week to decide. Yeah, that's incredibly common that you would have 1 week. All job offers typically have a week. I would say that's fair, and I would also say that that week timeline, if you needed more time, they'll give it to you. So Austin. So I do think that this is for an L4 solutions architect. 135K base, I think sounds right. The 190K in equity. I mean, this sounds about right. I would have liked to see the equity at least get into the low twos. No sign-on bonus. So yeah, only a 10% increase. I get that. That's not great. These numbers do look relatively aligned for a solutions architect. I would have liked to again see maybe the base up to 140 and the equity to 210, 220, but it's not outside of the range. And just understand that you're going to work for an organization that is a pay for performance organization, and they're not going to hold back promotions. You're going to get great refreshers. There's going to be lots of opportunities to make money, but yeah, I would have liked to see the numbers a little higher, but it sounds pretty in line with an L4 for Austin. And my recruiter's cell phone number, but as a courtesy have limited my interactions to email. I send them updates and suitably aligned roles strictly via email. Do recruiters ever prefer text? Ask them, right? I think that this is a really good, this is a first interaction question, in my opinion. I think that this is one of the most critical to ask. What is your preferred method of communication? Email, text, or phone? And they'll give you that answer. And just sometimes asking, they're like, oh, I love getting text messages, because I have found that some recruiters are more open to text. So definitely a consideration. Now, sharing that information via text, I don't know. I find email to be a little bit easier, but remember, if you're going to share aligned roles, we always want to take the same advice. And I feel like I just need to do a short on this because I'm talking about it in every live session. So it just needs to be a short or a TikTok or both. But we want to take the following steps. We don't want to inundate them. So you want to send them one job at a time, send them the job link, the specific job link from the careers page, send them 3 to 5 bullets for why you think you're a fit. Then in that email, I know this is going to sound crazy, but you want to actually include your email address and your phone number, because you're going to attach your resume, an updated resume that aligns with that job. You're going to change out the summary for that position and summary only. But email and phone number in the base of the email, and then your availability over the next 2 weeks to talk. That kind of process is going to make it extremely easy. And the reason why we do all those things is so Jane, the recruiter, can forward it on to Bob, the recruiter, who's actually working on that role, because Jane's only going to work on a select number of roles and Bob might be handling that other role. And Jane can quickly look that up in the system to see that Bob is working on that role. So I hope that helps, but always ask, What is your preferred method of communication? It's just a great question and will ultimately yield in more timely responses. After completing my product interview loop, the recruiter shared that the interview feedback was mixed. The recruiter still offered to search for a team and match it at a lower L6 level and possibly at L7. Okay. They said the number of open roles in GCP are limited at the moment. What's the likelihood of getting a team match and clearing HC? Suggestions on how long this takes and how to navigate. Okay, so um, openings in GCP, I haven't seen that, but that could be GCP product, right? So that's very possible. Likelihood of a team match and clearing HC are questions, unfortunately, I just can't answer for you. The likelihood is it's just an unknown. Yeah. And clearing HC, well, with mixed feedback, getting into a team match is going to be harder. If the feedback was mixed and negative enough, they just wouldn't put you into this part of the process, but they will see feedback going into the team match. You could also ask, hey, is there an opportunity to redo one of those interviews to strengthen my packet? That's a question you could ask. And how long it takes, again, a complete unknown. Some people have stayed in the team match phase for over a year and keep getting team matches. Some have been in it for over a year and they don't get anything. But you just got to build that strong relationship with your recruiter. But I do think it's a fair question to ask. Can you tell me which specific interview I didn't do as well in, or is there an opportunity to do additional interviews and strengthen my packet? An L6 product manager is still going to make, if they brought you in at L6, a ton of money. Product at Google pays unbelievably well. So I definitely, if they are downgrading you to an L6, it's something that I would definitely consider. Okay, I think this is in reference to Maxi's offer. So we were talking about Maxi's offer of 190K in equity, and I was saying it. I would have liked to have seen it up to 210, 220. That's total equity over 4 years. I hope that answers your question. Should I try to push for more? Would it prolong the process? Also, I heard bonuses are paid out in March. So if I join in March, would I be eligible for refreshers? Okay, this is a few different questions, so let's cover all of them. Um, I would. I would push for more. Just because you get to a best and final, I wish people could see the results of my negotiation stuff on the best and final side, but about 50% of the time I'm able to go back and get my clients more. It's not a pitch for my services. It's a knowledge item to say, go try and get more. Okay. And you want to be really gracious and kind. And you could say something like, I think we're really close. I want to start off by acknowledging that I heard you when you said best and final. If we can just add 30K in equity to the offer, I will sign the offer. So something like that. If you go back in your last ask, when you hit best and final, it can't be a big ask. If you go and you try and go baller in the big ask, they will literally just shut you down. So we come in, we make good decisions by showing that we are flexible, but that we're really close. Okay. So that's my recommendation. I would go back and ask for 20 or 30K more in equity. That's the only number they're going to move at this point, if they move anything at all. But you have to bring in the awareness and the acknowledgement that you're at the best and final stage. It's the right thing to do. It will create and foster a better relationship for them. But I would go 20 to 30K in total equity. So it's not going to move a ton. Here's the thing with best and final. For whatever company now, of course, can't do this with every company. Some companies will rescind if you push at this point, but a company like a Google, an Amazon, a Meta, they're not going to rescind because you ask for more money one more time. But when you do it, remember you're spending like 30 seconds to a minute, and that could yield 30K over 4 years more. So let's talk about the next pieces. Um, would it prolong the process? Not really at this point. You're going to get that answer pretty quickly. They're just going to say yes or no. Um, Eligibility for refreshers. This is a really, really confusing item. And I believe that Google uses incorrect language when sharing these items. But I'm just going to share my insight, and this is just my opinion. They tell you you are not eligible for refreshers if you do not start in the previous year, meaning that if you did not start in 2023, if you start after 2023 and 2024, you're not eligible for refreshers. That's not true. Refreshers are not guaranteed if you start in 2024. But here's the thing. I'm Sue. Well, I'm Jeff, obviously, but I'm Sue, your hiring manager, right? And you do fantastic work for the 6 months before they decide the refresher amounts. I'm going to give you something. I'm not going to give you nothing. Now, the later in the year you come in, yes, it gets less and less viable. But am I going to give you something? Yeah, there's a strong likelihood you're going to get some refreshers, but they say you're not eligible. They should say refreshers are not guaranteed. I think the language is really poor because I know a lot of people who are coming in early in the year are getting refreshers because it just kind of sets a bad precedent if you get nothing for working for all those months. So you will probably get refreshers. I can't guarantee them. And then you will get your annual bonus, which will be prorated based on your amount of time spent in the organization. And yeah, I hope that part was clear. Hey, Jeff, after a final round interview, is it common to get feedback? Okay, I think Sean, there's a second part to this, but it just cut off at I, or maybe that was just a line or a mistake. Um, at any company, we hope that they're going to give us feedback after the final interview. If they don't, you got ghosted, and it's your opportunity to provide that negative, well, provide not negative feedback, but provide feedback to both the organization, to put it on Glassdoor, put it on Team Blind, wherever you want to put it if you have a bad experience, because after a final interview, you should hear back. Now, feedback is a secondary piece. So hearing back is one, and then actually specific feedback. Oftentimes, the challenging piece with feedback is it's a legality item, and they can't provide specific feedback because they put themselves at a legal risk if they do provide it. So that's a tricky part, but I'm not sure which item you're alluding to, but please, if I didn't answer your question, please come back. Okay, I just applied to Google's APMM role. That's Associate Product Marketing Manager. And what should I focus on to get the position? Okay, so you've applied. Once you get into the interview process, uh, we talk about associate roles in general, they tend to, not all the time, but they tend to lean a little bit behavioral. So you want to make sure you have those great behavioral answers prepared. That's a focus for anybody in any interview at any company. Behavioral answers are kind of the foundation of interviewing. So you want to focus in on those. And then in this role, you want to think about, okay, what would I need to do in this role to be successful? Really think about that item, and then you're going to have to go in and practice your hypothetical questions. You can do that using ChatGPT. I've done videos on that to help you with that. But you really want to understand, how are you taking the question? How are you clarifying the question? How are you presenting your framework, your outline? How are you making some role specific assumptions? That's a huge one that people miss out on. And then solving. That's going to be quite a bit of work. Obviously, I could get really deep into the weeds, but for now, I just want you to start practicing. And so with behavioral answers, just get them down on paper, right? With your hypothetical answers, you're probably going to need to practice with some sample questions. And again, you can use ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever you want to use as your Gen AI tool to create those questions for you. And the last piece is, hey, to get the position, you have to outwork your competitors when it comes to interview prep. There's few times in our lives where we can do something that's so impactful and doesn't take that much time, to take major leaps in our life. And career changes are major leaps, especially landing at elite companies in terms of comp, in terms of the brand, etc. So double down. You have to put in the work because a lot of people aren't putting in enough work, and it's a game changer and will really help your success. We're at the 30s. I'm going to take 30 seconds to hit on my services, and then we'll get right back to questions. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, app.practiceinterviews.com. This is our AI practice interview tool. The tool is free. For your first 3 questions, you can practice your first 3 questions for free. Try it out, see if you like it. But the upgraded version is going to allow you to enter your own job description and title. So that's kind of an advantage, a huge advantage, especially if you're in the interview process. I'm still doing one-on-one interview, negotiation, and strategy coaching sessions. And I have a special offer on the course today, $200 off our interview mastery course. If you use the coupon code M2024, that will be available just till 11:59 Pacific today. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every single Tuesday and new original content every single Monday. All right, let's dive back into questions. Okay. Hey, Jeff. I had an ex-colleagues recommend consultancy services with supposed FANG connections that make you sign an incoming sharing agreement, which guarantees them a portion of your salary. Ex-colleagues recommend consultancy services, supposed FANG connections that make you sign an incoming sharing agreement that guarantees a portion of your salary. I already don't like it. Let's talk more. Personally, I think it's a total scam that they would expect up to 14% of one's annual salary, whether they're responsible for helping you get the job or not. Have you heard of these places? Okay. And then let's go to this. I doubt consultancy firms like this have networking capabilities better than what I could do on LinkedIn, connections, and possible referrals. Your thoughts just seem suspect. So it's super interesting because I actually tried to run a similar service in my early days of my business. And it's specifically on the negotiation side. I said, hey, if you get the job, I'm going to take 10% or 5% or 3%. It didn't work. And I think it's a really challenging business model. How do they ensure that they're actually getting that 14%? I think it would be really hard for them to come after and get that money. So I don't like the business model because I think it's difficult to follow up on. And it just sounds a little strange overall. So they get you FANG connections and then you sign up. So just a referral for like 14% of a year one salary that's a lot of money, right? If we're thinking about even a 100K job, $14,000, and we know that these companies are going to pay a lot more than that. That's a lot just for an introduction, and it's pretty scammy because, like, if they're saying they'll get you the referral or they'll get you in the door, they're referring somebody they don't know. And we know that there are sites out there where there are actually Google employees and Meta employees and Amazon and Apple employees who are getting paid to refer people in. That is so bad. And if I was HR at any of those companies, I'd be finding those people and firing them instantly. All of them. Anybody who's getting paid to refer you in, from a moral and ethical perspective, really, really bad. Okay. So I agree. I wouldn't do it if I were you personally. I completed all stages for a CE role late last year, but narrowly missed out. I've applied for the same role this year and a recruiter call booked in. Will I have to redo the interview stages? Okay, good question. We don't know. Considering the fact that it was late last year, my best guess is not all of them. So if you narrowly missed it last year, it probably means that a couple of the interviews were really, really solid. Maybe like your Googliness and leadership and GCA interviews were solid, but they needed to see a little bit more on the RRK end, on the presentation interview. Probably redo 1 to 2, but not the full slate. And as you talk to this recruiter, try and get that understanding in the initial meeting. Based on the previous feedback, which interviews would I need to redo? So you go in with the assumptive, like, hey, I don't need to redo all this stuff, because you really shouldn't. If you got that close, it's a law of diminishing returns. Like throwing you in all these interviews again when you just narrowly missed it a few months ago doesn't make a lot of sense for you or for them. So you shouldn't have to redo all of them, but that's a good place to start in that conversation. Hey, Jeff, I'm currently in the team matching at Google for L3. What are the chances that I get rejected in HC? Yeah, I always give the same answer. I have no idea. I can't see the feedback. So without that data, I never like to give answers when I don't have data, and I don't have the data, so I don't know. HC is a part of the process. And so the fact that you're at the team matching stage already indicates strong feedback. They don't put everybody in the team matching stage. You have to do well across all interviews. Now, they're looking at things collectively, of course, but passing HC after that, it's a complete unknown. It's definitely a barrier, an item you need to get past, but I can't give you percentages, unfortunately. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that was pretty clear. Income sharing agreement. Oh boy. I mean, again, like, what are they offering for that, right? Like, are they just offering an introduction? Now, look, there's value in an introduction, but it sounds scammy. And oh, okay, all right. Pathrise. I'm definitely looking that up after this live session. It's super interesting. Look, it's just such an interesting experience since I started doing this in when did I start doing this? 2018 was when late 2018 is when I started my YouTube channel. I really started coaching. My first coaching client was May 1st of 2019 was my first coaching client. And so now that I'm hitting like 5 years of coaching, what have I seen in the market? Um, I've seen a lot more competition come in. By the way, for me, competition is good because it's an indication that there's a need and desire in the market. One of the biggest challenge areas, and this is something that I just want everybody to think about when hiring an interview coach or negotiation coach. And of course, it's something that I recommend. It's up to you. It's obviously a financial commitment, et cetera. But a lot of these platforms, let's call out a couple like I Got an Offer or Keris or like these bigger platforms, they just throw coaches from big tech into their platform. And we cannot go under the assumption that because you work at Google or Apple or Meta or Amazon, that makes you a good interview coach. This is a side hustle for these people. They're trying to make extra money, but it doesn't mean they actually know how to do interview coaching. It's not to say not to use them, but if I was to go to one of those platforms, I'd absolutely pick the people who had 300 reviews or 400 reviews or 500 reviews. I'd go to the people who had a ton of reviews because just working in big tech is not enough. And it's a confession for me to say, I thought I was a much better coach when I initially started than I was. I had to build it up over time. I had to build the skill set. So yeah, it's kind of crazy what you see out there. And so if it feels funky, it probably is funky, but I got to check this out. So, okay, Pathrise. All right, I got to put that in my brain. And obviously, I can come back to this comment. Thanks for that. I lost my job in December 2023. I'm facing tough time to get job interviews. Should I buy LinkedIn Premium to connect to recruiters? No. I mean, LinkedIn Premium has a bunch of different options, and obviously sending in mails can be effective. Recruiters are not your target audience. Let's pause on that. Recruiters are not your target audience. Why? Because of the sheer volume of how often they get hit up, how often people reach out to them, and how often people go with a real taking model as opposed to giving model. So recruiters just kind of shut down on LinkedIn. When I was at Google, I think it was about 100 a week. I'd get about 100 people a week reaching out to me, and the vast majority of the messages were, "Find me a job, get me a job, here's my resume, go find the opportunities that are a fit for me and get back to me. Um, do you have any openings at Facebook? Do you have any openings at Apple?" Even though I was working at Google, like, it was just I got so inundated, and I think that's what is happening to these recruiters, and it's not just at the big tech companies, it's everywhere. So, I'm going on a deep, dark path here, but basically, I want you to take another approach, which is I want you to actively network with people who you perceive to be hiring managers or have actually called out that they're hiring managers on LinkedIn. What is the path? Well, the best path is reaching out to people who you have a second connection with. And I tell anybody I'm pretty open on my networking. So if you want to reach out to me and connect with me, it will open up a lot of second connections. So what is that second connection note? You're limited in characters to 300 characters. So let's say you come across Sue Smith. Sue Smith is a program manager leader at Google, and she's focused maybe, let's say, in the data center space. So what I would do is I would reach out to Sue with a note, a connection note, and I'd say, "Hey Sue, came across your background, really impressed. I came across this article last week on Google about how AI is evolving data centers. Just wanted to share it with you. Have a great day." And don't ask for anything. Repeat, 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 and do it as many times as you can. I want you to track it. Okay. So there's on my website, practiceinterviews.com, there's a free networking tracker. We got to track our networking activities, but go to the hiring managers, not the recruiters. Hiring managers will be more of your advocate. Recruiters are probably not going to look at what you send them. Now, upgrading to a LinkedIn premium account has some other benefits. You can see who's looked at your profile. That's really valuable. I have an upgraded LinkedIn account, and that is one of the major reasons why I have it. It's not to send in mails, it's so that I can see who's looked at my profile and then respond accordingly. If somebody interesting looked at my profile, I'm absolutely going to reach out and be like, "Hey, Jane, I saw you looked at my profile. You want to chat?" Because it's business opportunities for me. So I use it primarily for just that one feature, not searching, not all the other things. So that can be a valuable resource. And yeah, you will have a lot of in mails. The in mails carry over. So it can be a valuable item to have, but it's not for reaching out to recruiters, in my opinion. Good question on LinkedIn. Following up on that. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I think I went down that path, hopefully really effectively, Jim. But yeah, I mean, I see the benefit in it, and I used to recommend it more. I think as I've kind of gotten more sophisticated with my networking skills personally, I don't see quite as much value, but the in-mail piece is valuable if you can't get to somebody. Here's another sneaky trick. Let's talk about it. There's a tool called Contact Out. Let me repeat that again. Contact Out. Go to contactout.com. I think it's .com, and sign up. They'll give you free hits on LinkedIn. What does that mean? If you click the button and you go into somebody's profile, it will give you their email address, their phone number. So then you can directly hit them up. And Contact Out will give you 5 free a month, 10 free a month, 10 free a month for 10 for free just for signing up. So I love that tool. It's unbelievably effective, and the information is incredibly accurate. Incredibly accurate. Um, Obviously, if their personal email address is AOL or Yahoo, you might say, "Ooh, is that real?" I do recommend not texting or calling people. I think that's over the top, but check out Contact Out. That's a good way to spend no money, especially if the budget is tight. But upgrading your LinkedIn is never a terrible idea. And you can do it and then pull back on it. So I wouldn't do the annual spend, I would do the monthly spend. Can you get me a job? I have learned LLM and Gen AI recently. So I haven't had somebody come into this live and ask a question like this in quite a long time. Um, the answer is you have to really do that work yourself, right? So, and this is just a good point to what we were just talking about. If you come in and ask me to get you a job, and this is just my honest, candid feedback, that's asking me to do the work. And so that's quite a big ask, right? And so I would say put in the work on your end. Obviously, I have a ton of resources to work on your resume, work on your LinkedIn profile, work on your networking skills. But if this is the approach, reaching out to people like me or reaching out to recruiters and saying, "Can you get me a job? I have these skills." It's not a great strategy. There are better strategies, and the best strategy continues to be giving instead of trying to receive. And the reason why is people tend to have a positive response to giving because they are so used to being asked for something that when you give, it feels really, really different, right? You feel different from everybody else. So I do still on LinkedIn get a bunch of people who will send me their resumes. They'll say, "Hey, this is my resume. Find me a job, get me a job." I don't even do recruiting anymore. It's not a part of my job at all. I am specifically a coach and now a SaaS product owner, right? And so, just an important item to note is that if your approach is to ask people to find you a job, it's going to be a challenging approach. I hope that helps. Practice interviews. Please clarify the comment on connecting to the hiring manager. Are you saying to provide them info but not tell them you're interested in the job? That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. It's a long-term approach. The likelihood that Sue Smith, program manager leader on LinkedIn, is going to post her job on LinkedIn is extremely small. Now, with those times where they are posting their job, sure, of course, if they have put it out to the world that they are looking to hire people for that role, then yes, there's an opportunity. But that's single digit percentages, 1%, 2%, 3%. It's a long game. And the reason why people don't follow my advice on networking is because they don't want to play the long game. And that's not a comment at you, Jim. It's just a general comment. People don't want to do the work on networking. If you give, you will receive. It's guaranteed. Somebody is going to come back and say, "Wow, that was a really cool article. Thank you so much for thinking about me first. How can I help you?" And I know that this works because I followed this approach. This was in 2010. I took this approach and I just gave, and I ended up with 3 job offers because I gave. Now it was a long approach. It took 6 months. So, but throughout that time, I built the network, I built the strategy, and I know that it works, but it will require patience. People will say, "Well, I don't have that much time." But the alternative of just applying to roles, just asking for people to get you roles, it doesn't work. Not in today's world where people just get so inundated with that stuff. We got to be different. And even if Sue Smith responds and says, "Thank you so much," I don't want you to do anything with it except a month later, follow up on your tracker and say, "Hey, Sue was thinking about you today, found a really cool video that I thought might also be helpful. Check it out. Have a great day." We're really waiting for Sue to come back and acknowledge that she can help us. So it sounds like a crazy strategy, and it kind of is, and it's why nobody does it. I mean, I have worked with so many close friends of mine who I've given this network tracker to, and nobody uses it. But I'll tell you, it's really, really effective. And I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but career coaches. So, like, I'm friends with some real baller career coaches on LinkedIn, like Heather Austin, Cassandra Thompson, and we all joke about the fact that we put out networking content and literally nobody watches it. But it's our gold. It's our best value is teaching networking because networking will truly get you in the door. But it's like people want to know how to get a job, but they don't want to put in the effort on the networking side. I know that was a long tangent, but it's really, really important. Standing out in today's application world, especially where applying is just different than it used to be. It's so easy to throw up 100 applications in a day. You're just getting lost in the weeds typically. Hey, Jeff, wanted to say thank you so much. Been watching your videos for approximately 2 months. Never thought I'd clear the Google interview. Amazing. And that's what I'm here to do. Yeah, I love hearing these good stories. And the thing that's cool, and I talk about this a lot, and this is something I recommend to anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur. It's cool that 99.9% of people who consume my content get it for free and never buy any of my services. That's cool to me. If I can get that 0.1, I can live a pretty good life. And I know that I'm hopefully adding value. And I'm not going to do the Google content for forever, right? It's probably this year. The end of the YouTube journey is probably ending this year. I can't say for sure. I've really enjoyed it and I've enjoyed working with the community. But at a certain point, all of us YouTubers need to be thinking about our end game. And my end game is probably coming up soon. So I hope that this content sits and lives and breathes. Sits and lives and breathes. That's kind of funny for content, but I hope that it stays out there for a long time and people continue to get value from it for a long time. Okay, I thought you meant the occasional posted recruiter contact for the job posted on LinkedIn. I only see this occasionally versus just seeing the apply button. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Can you share the network tracker, please, or where can I find it? Practiceinterviews.com. Scroll to the bottom, click on free resources, and then you'll see the networking tracker. If you have tried to download any of those docs from my previous website, you know that it was just, the way we built that was terrible. Right now, nothing's hiding behind a wall. At some point, of course, as a business owner, I need to make sure that my downloads collect email addresses. It's just part of being a business owner. But for right now, not hiding it behind anything because it was just so overwhelming before. So the download should just be really simple. Again, practiceinterviews.com, scroll to the footer, and in the footer is free resources. I really wanted to simplify the new website, scrap out a lot of the text, a lot of the other stuff, and get rid of a lot of the fluff and get to the content that was going to help people. Yeah, so there's nothing about the networking piece in the interview mastery course, right? The interview mastery course is just focused in on interviewing only. So yeah, free resources section of practiceinterviews.com in the footer. Yes, congrats, Maxie. I know we're still trying to negotiate this offer, and I do want you to go back and push one more time, see if we can get that equity up to 210, 220. But it's a great place to be. And the reality is that these getting into Google now is good for years 1 and years 2. With the front-loaded equity, you're going to make more upfront, and then you can decide, hey, is this the right career path? Are they taking care of me, et cetera? I'm not sure, Andrew, what you're talking about, but I think you're referencing the networking tracker, free resources in the footer of practiceinterviews.com. I have read that it is viewed negatively if you apply for multiple roles at GQT the same time. Is this true? Well, it used to be different. You used to not be capped. So I think that maybe historically it was viewed negatively because people could apply for 100 positions a day. There was no cap. But now that you're capped at 3 applications a month, I think it's fine. It's just you don't want to be applying for a product manager role, then a marketing role, then an accountant role. Like that wouldn't make sense. But as long as the roles are close and are a good match for your expertise and background, I think it's great. Yeah, Maxie. This is fun, right? And it's just so interesting. I think back in 2022, this would have been probably spring or early summer of 2022, we had one of these live sessions where I think we had 13, 14, 15 people come in and say they got the job. This isn't 2022. We don't have 100 to 200 people on the live sessions anymore. Obviously, things have slowed down a little bit, but every single person who comes back and tells us they got the job, it's just great because sometimes it can feel like nobody's getting the job. So, just for the community, if you do end up getting the job and you want to come back and say you got it, I think it's just a really positive vibe and helps the community. And remember, I am such a tiny, small piece of the journey, right? Yeah, I put a lot of content out there, but the content has to be applied, right? You have to put in the work, put in all that interviewing skills, all that time, all that prep, all that practice. So it's awesome. And thanks. So I love all the positivity that this community brings for those who have landed the job. Thank you so much for your content. You landed a decent role last year with your help, and now you're laid off. Okay. I think your videos bring a lot of value for a long time. Thanks, Diego. I mean, that's the hope, right? I hope that these videos sit out there and not just the Google stuff, because the Google landscape's always going to change and evolve and grow, but just that in general, the simple basics of interviewing for right now, the content can live and breathe. We are currently interviewing with human beings. I do not think that that is the future of interviewing. I really don't. I think that the transition to interviewing with AI is just around the corner. And so my prep is really built for interviewing with humans. I think as it changes over to AI, I think it will be different and there will be tips and tricks for navigating around AI. And AI recognizing when you're giving an answer that has been processed by AI. I mean, it's all pretty crazy to be thinking about. I think also if I were to highlight to these organizations what I think really hiring should look like is I think hiring should be all project based work that you get paid for. So what does that mean? It means you get a project, you sign an NDA, multiple NDAs, whatever they need to do. You get access to some of the tools and systems, and they pay you to do the project work for 1 month, 1 week, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is. They see how you do over time, and then they hire you based on that work, but they've paid you for it. So what would that do? It means you wouldn't have to leave your current job, but you're showing them that you can do the work and then they're doing what's right by paying you. I think companies would hire better people. We all know interviews are 100% totally flawed because they're conducted by humans, right? And we don't know how that human's going to show up on that day. Good mood, bad mood, tired, hungover, something bad happened at work. Like those could all impact our success rate. So right now, the interviewing process is extremely flawed. And so I think there's just massive opportunities to absolutely just break it up and take it on a totally different process. And the first organization to do that and do that successfully, you will see other organizations following suit. For any role. For any role. How does this work? I don't know exactly what it looks like, but even with sales, maybe they could build in a small sales incentive for you to close a couple sales while you're technically doing a little bit of contract work. Of course, there couldn't be a conflict of interest there. So for sales, that might be more difficult. How would you roll this out? Yeah, I mean it's got a lot of challenges, but I'd rather see how you perform doing the work of the job as opposed to doing 3 45-minute interviews or 4 45-minute interviews, and that tells me everything. I am here to coach you on that because that's the current process we have, and nobody's wanted to break it. But a lot of the interview landscape just needs to totally be broken up. I think recruiting needs to be 100% automated. I think we need to we get rid of all sourcers, recruiters, and recruiting coordinators. I think all of that could be automated now. People don't agree with me. I think that candidate experience would improve if you remove the human element. I know that's scary. And I think that it could happen at all stages, including negotiation. I think that the overall candidate experience would increase. It's just my opinion. Have you seen greater sales roles in tech enterprise software? Greater. I'm a little confused by the question. If you're asking about an increase, I haven't really seen an increase. It's stayed pretty flat. But if there's another question, please let me know. I have a meeting. I have a meeting, a recruiter for a role in Google Africa. I need help. Okay. Okay, Jackie. Well, just remember with the recruiter, the recruiter conversation is usually very, very casual. Oops. Just make sure I just hit my mic. And so if you can't hear me, let me know. The recruiter conversation is going to be very, very casual. Okay. Usually they're not coming in and challenging you. Usually, I can't say for sure, but usually it's just really important to show up on time, have massive gratitude in that conversation, stay engaged, communicate, listen well. And if you're a fit for the role, usually they're going to move you on to the next stage. Now, that next stage is Google's hiring assessment. They're making everybody complete that cultural assessment. I did a YouTube short on that if you want to learn more about it. But I wouldn't be too nervous about the recruiter call. It's the actual interviews that are tougher. Let me know. Let me know if you have more questions. An increase. Yeah. Yes, I have not seen a huge increase in sales. I've seen it to be pretty flat from what I've seen. All right. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I hit my mic and I'm always slightly paranoid after a couple of hiccups early this year. Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, Jackie, I think that was pretty clear. Okay. We are out of questions. I'm just going to take a moment. We're going to pause. We're going to breathe. Let me go ahead and prompt on my services for a moment. Let me take 30 seconds and then that will kind of be our wrap up. And then obviously, if people have more questions, comments, I am here to answer them. There is no time or specific time commitment to any of these lives. I go as long as the questions are coming in. So if you are unaware, oops, then I launched my practice interviews AI app last Monday. We're getting some really, really great feedback. The funniest thing that I always tell my clients is if you go in and use that tool, the feedback is literally going to sound exactly like me. That's really intentional. We are still offering that lifetime package. That's probably going to go away pretty soon. We just wanted to introduce it in the beginning. Probably not the best financial decision to keep that out there forever, but we're going to keep it out there for a little bit. That has been our most popular package by far, which again is a little surprising, but obviously great news for the business. Still doing one-on-one interview, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and one-on-one strategy sessions. If you want to sign up for our interview mastery course, we have a special offer today, $200 off if you use the coupon code M2024. Again, that's M2024. That will be available just till 11:59 Pacific time today. I go live at 9 a.m. every single Tuesday, and then I do new original content every single Monday. If you like what I did today, smash that like button. And if you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. I think I'm up to, well, it's well over 415 videos or something like that. So it's a lot. I actually have one viewer who has been commenting on some really old content videos that I even forgot were out there. So it's one of the cool things about LinkedIn, or sorry, about YouTube, is that we're at, over 400 videos. So those videos are just sitting out there living and breathing. And it's kind of cool when people go back to the early stuff. Although I'll say, like, I've grown and evolved. And so the content, I hope, keeps getting better. So every time I do put out content, the newer stuff is just built on top of my learnings, what I've learned over time. So we're out of questions. Why don't we just take one moment to talk about, is tech hiring going back up? I think it is a little bit. I think from what I've seen, I kind of track the numbers. I look at the numbers on these sites, and I think I'm seeing some good trends right now. I think that the job market is still very, very competitive, more competitive than ever. but I still see tons of opportunities here. So I think we're starting to see some good trends. We haven't fallen into the recession like we anticipated. I think a lot of people did anticipate that. At least in the US, we're not seeing it. Overall, global economy seems to be relatively strong right now. So we'll take it while we got it. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. I'll be back next week, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Have a great day. Take care.